And we are live with our 10th edition of Nansen Office Hours. Alex, how you doing this week?
I'm doing really well. ETH is at all-time high. Can't complain. And you?
Same here, yeah. It's been great watching it smash through all-time high. We got an LFG in the chat. Yes, LFG indeed.
Medium dex trader.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I've had a position on ETH for a little while now, and so it was interesting just waiting for this moment. Um, and yeah, we're here. We're in a new era.
Price discovery.
Yeah, exactly. So let's dive right into our dashboards, and maybe we can see some interesting things that either were leading up to this all-time high or are kind of indicators of what's to come.
Yeah. Maybe we should also mention that this time we were thinking we could try to do some things a little bit more interactive. And so in particular, if there are any like tokens or addresses you want to look at in a wallet profiler, if you want to get sort of an expert take on wallet profiler, for example, feel free to drop them in the channel. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, let me share my screen.
sure. And while that's loading up, for anyone who is new here, feel free to mention or feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Anything we say here is certainly not investment advice, but you know, the occasional alpha leak does come from these sessions. But yeah, it's intended to be interactive, so definitely let us know. Pershing has asked about hash masks and NCT. We will definitely be covering that. It'll be coming up later in the chat.
All right. Can you see my screen now?
Sure can.
All right. So I think we have to start at the macro level because ETH is pumping. And so the first thing I think about when I see kind of a macro pump like that, something that moves Ether, is really stable coins on exchanges. Because typically, if someone wants to buy a lot of Ether, they will possibly pump a lot of stable coins into exchanges. And when I was loading up this just before we started here, I did notice that there's a pretty massive spike on incoming stablecoins to exchanges, which at first we were wondering if it was actually just a data anomaly somehow. But when we kind of took a closer look, we found that, well, there is this huge inflow on Binance where they basically have $5 billion worth of stable coins, and that's only on Ethereum, right? This is only on Ethereum, so it's only ERC20 tokens. But like 5 billion tokens, and almost half of that came in one day, which is quite dramatic. But you can scroll to the very bottom of this page to get more granular on what's happening. So you can look at the largest stablecoin transactions in the last 7 days, and you can see pretty clearly that the tether that's coming into Binance, you can trace it back pretty easily. You see some coming from the deposit wallets into the main wallets. That's not so interesting. That's just like shuffling around of Binance's own tokens. But that's not what we saw above, because this doesn't count as net inflow. This is just movement within the same entity. But here you can see Tether Treasury into Binance Deposit. And so you see, for example, here about, I think this is $2 billion worth of Tether that basically were sent from Tether to Binance earlier today. So this is UTC time. So I think that's about seven hours ago or something like that. So that's quite dramatic if you just look at the chart. I mean, that's a lot of Tether coming in to Binance. And why would anyone send Tether to Binance? I mean, presumably they're going to buy something. So that could be one of the mechanical reasons why you see pretty much everything rising when you look at CoinGecko and so on in terms of price. Another discussion we had was, well, what about looking at Ether on exchanges? And so my feeling with Ether, and of course, you have to properly back test this and so on and do, a thorough analysis if you want to make an informed opinion on this topic. But I think if you just think it through, it's a little less clear how you would see big movements on Ether on exchanges, in connection with a big pump in price. So you can think of the causality, I think, in two different ways. One would be, well, if the price pumps, I'm going to pull a lot of Ether out of the exchange because I'm sort of accumulating it and I don't want to keep it on the exchange. So that's like maybe something that could happen, but that sort of assumes that you don't want to keep the Ether on the exchange in the first place. So the other way around would be, that because there's people pulling Ether off of the exchanges, there's actually less Ether available for the buyers to buy, and that's what drives the price up. But Ether is actually, quite liquid. It's a big, market cap asset. So to me, this is, it's a little less clear how the connection with ETH exchange flow fits together with ETH price. And, just anecdotally looking at these, a couple of examples, it seems to be more tied to the stablecoin movement rather than ETH. So I tend to look at stablecoins on exchanges more than I look at ETH on exchanges when it comes to the price action for ETH. I just want to also emphasize that, well, you could make the argument that, it could be the same thing as you have with tokens, where Synthetics, Aave, for example, had these very strong narratives where tokens were being pulled off the exchanges and then pulled into staking contracts, for example. And that was a very real thing. I mean, it was a very clear driver for the price. But what's the analogous concept with Ether? It would be ETH2 staking, probably, right? And, there's been a lot of good traction on ETH2 staking, but it's still, less than 3% of the total ETH supply. So I don't think staking itself really drives the price. It might be more like a slow churn upwards. But yeah, so that's a little bit of a rant on stablecoins, Ether, and how that fits together with the price movements and exchanges.
Quick note before people go out and smash 10x buy on ETH. Someone noted in the chat that stablecoin inflow might actually be a swap between, I think, Tron.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Could definitely
Tron,
be that too.
Tron USDT, I guess, and
Yep.
ERC20 USDT.
It could be that. I don't know if the reader mentioned that was actually the case or that it could be the case.
Paolo Arduino, I don't know, the guy from
Tether.
Bitfinex.
Oh, okay.
Confirms it. I think he's the
Oh,
CTO
cool.
of Bitfinex.
Okay, nice, cool. That's a good explanation for that then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Should we move on to the little bit more esoteric topic of hash masks?
I'm curious real quick because we've got the ETH2 deposit contract here. We also do have that dashboard for Lido. How's that coming along, and how are the top ETH2 stakers? Because there's also some big exchanges that are staking ETH2 or staking ETH into ETH2.
Good question. So we have this nice dashboard called ETH2 deposit contract, which shows you how much Ether is being deposited to that contract. And you can see the sort of macro numbers here on how much Ether is being deposited, how many unique depositors, that is addresses on ETH1, are depositing, and how many unique validators that has resulted in. But then it gets a little bit more interesting if you scroll down and you see the top ETH2 depositing addresses with entities in most cases. There's just one we don't have an entity for, and it annoys me a little bit because I've tried to find out what it is. And if Paolo Arduino is still in the chat, maybe we can ask him because it might be related to Bitfinex. Then you can see here the depositors at the entity level. So the left shows addresses. These are individual addresses depositing Ether. But over here, you can see it at the entity level. So for example, Kraken is over here, has 395,000 Ether, the biggest entity that we track. But it's spread across several wallets. And you see two of them in the top 10 here, like the top one and the number 5 one here. And then you see, for example, Lido that you mentioned earlier on fourth place here. They use one contract address. So on the chart here, they're basically the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th entity, and it looks like they might actually end up flipping Bitcoin Swiss. But we can drill down real quick on Lido specifically. So I want to click through on that. We have another dashboard for Lido, one of the projects that have worked with us so that we could set up a dashboard for them. And it shows a similar thing. It shows basically how much Ether is being deposited specifically with Lido. And you have that up to the right chart, 7.3% increase just in one day, which is quite a lot actually. And you can also see the token price of STE, which is the staked, basically the liquid asset that you get from staking Ether with Lido against Ether, and you can see how it's pretty much, at the peg, and it has been for a while. And volume has been increasing, especially with Curve liquidity incentives coming along, and so on. And you see 1-inch pool here as well. And there's a little bug that we just discovered earlier today where we're not showing the 1-inch chart here, but that's going to get fixed pretty soon. So you'll see the increase of liquidity in 1-inch as well.
Does this dashboard show the number of unique depositors into Lido?
I don't think it does, no. Yeah, that's not really something. It shows the number of addresses holding STETH. And so that could be also people that bought STETH on secondary markets.
That's just what I was kind of wondering. I mean, it's not that critical of a stat, but the difference between unique stakers and unique holders to see how many people are actually holding STETH that didn't actually just deposit it themselves.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, like how many acquired their STETH on the secondary markets versus how many staked them. It's a good question. It looks like, well, we also have the largest individual staking transactions here, so you can click through and at least see, what are the addresses that have deposited Ether with Lido. This is the 0xB1, the on-chain influencer that you see on Twitter, depositing 640 ETH with Lido. Interesting. Yeah, but we don't have that specific stat. There's lots of other stats you can look at. You can also look up STETH on Token God mode, for example.
Right. Let us continue on to a topic requested in the chat here, which is hash masks.
Yeah. So maybe here I was thinking I could sort of give a little bit of an overview on how I personally discovered hash masks, because I learned about hash masks through using Nansen. So we have this.
You had a pretty good thread on it early on, right?
Yeah. So I posted a little Twitter thread here on the discovery process of crypto investing, because my sort of conceptual framework for what we do with Nansen is we help investors do due diligence, right? So like understanding assets better, but we also help them with discovery. So discovering new assets, discovering new yield farms, smart contract based projects, and so on. So this was really about the discovery process. And I think I can maybe just take you through the same thing as what I go through in the thread, but now with the actual dashboards in front of us. So where it started was hot contract. So this is like ideal for the discovery process because it aims to surface, where's the money actually flowing. And so a hot contract in this context just means that it has a lot of inflow of basically inflow of crypto assets. So Ether, tokens, stablecoins, and so on. And we measure this at different time units. So 1 hour, or the last hour, the last day, the last 7 days. And also in terms of the number of unique depositors. And this can be helpful, if you see a lot of money flowing in, but it's just one depositor, for example. Maybe that's like something you'd want to double check. You should double check everything, but that's definitely something to double check. But if you see a lot of different depositors, that might be a bit more of a health sign. And these things can be sorted, right? So you can let's look at the inflow of the last 7 days. And, you see a couple of addresses here. Keeper DAO, for example, liquidity pool. And you can see over here the number of smart money depositors. And so if you flip this around, you can see, some of these, which are like liquidity pools on SushiSwap or Uniswap. And you actually see the Lido one here. That's kind of funny, the one we were just looking at. So there's an incentives program going on now for Lido on 1inch. And you see some smart money taking advantage of that opportunity. But yeah, so I spotted hash masks, in this overview. Of course, now the overview looks a bit different, but I did find it down here at actually maybe it was up here. Let's see if I do inflow 7. Yeah, actually you can still see it here. So this was of course a sale, and the sale is not going on anymore, so there's no more inflow. And of course then there's very little inflow or deposits from smart money as well in the last day. So there was $16 million worth of Ether that came in over the last 7 days. And basically I could just click through on that and plug this address into wallet profiling. And so this, if you guys have used Nansen, then you will know Wallet Profiler. It's one of the 2 most popular dashboards. And it just kind of screens a specific wallet. In this case, it's the Hashmask smart contract. So you can see, when funds were, or when the contract was used, both in terms of hour of day and also by the day of week. But the most interesting thing that I was looking at was really, who's depositing Ether into this contract. And for that, I can scroll down to the very bottom, and you see all the top interacting wallets. So these are wallets that interacted with the Hashmask contract, basically the sale contract, where the Ether went in. So I can sort by ETH volume in, like this, and it shows me the top depositors in Ether into this contract. And so this was kind of reassuring, because I didn't know much about this Hashmask project. And so of course, as a part of now I went from discovery to due diligence, right? Now I'm trying to figure out, is this a scam, or what's going on here? And so I could click through and I could basically spot like some smart LPs, some ENS names that turn out to be like influencers, doing posts about crypto and so on. And, various different smart money and ENS names. And also like quite a lot of them, to be honest. It's a lot of different people. So, this was interesting. It's worth looking into more. And I basically went on Twitter and I searched for hash masks. And I think I found this one by DeFi Prime, which is saying that the hash mask is, the next CryptoPunks. And this was, I think, posted just a few hours before, like, I'd even discovered this. And so, yeah, this was kind of an interesting case study where you can go from discovery through hot contracts and then to actually doing a bit of due diligence before you decide to potentially ape into this project.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Just a potential bug that I'm that I'm noticing. On the hot contracts tab, can you tab back to that real quick?
Yeah.
So hash masks, it shows that there's 3 smart money depositors, but as we were scrolling through there, I definitely saw more than 3.
Yeah, this is just for the last day.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
It'd be good to know total.
It could be, yeah. Maybe we should do total on this one. Initially it was 1 hour, which didn't really make much sense, and then we did 1 day. Maybe you should at least do 7 days or something.
Well, I think total makes sense, because it's kind of like a seal of approval each time a smart money wallet interacts with it. And on that note, in the chat, someone asked a question, which is, how do we determine smart money wallets? Maybe we can just give a couple notes on that and point people towards docs.nansen.ai. So feel free to answer. What is a smart money wallet?
So smart money is basically at a conceptual level, it's addresses that have done good investment decisions in the past, at least in terms of returns. So they've either traded tokens with successful outcomes, or they've yield farmed and made a lot of money. So it's really a pretty broad category for us of addresses that you might be interested in following. There's obviously a little bit of secret sauce that goes into the exact way that we determine what's a smart money, but you can think about it in terms of quantitative approaches to assessing if someone made a lot of money, or even if there are kind of well-known funds that have a good track record. That could also be labeled smart money. For example, if they're just like long-term holders of a project and so on. And we do have this dashboard called Smart Money, which aggregates statistics like across that segment. And at the very bottom, you see there are about almost 1,400 smart money addresses. So it's not that many actually at the moment. And this is kind of one of the ways we try to surface the signal from the noise, right? But yeah, in broad strokes, that's how it works.
A couple things to add there. So if you're looking for specific labels that we use for smart money, so you saw down there was smart LP, there was flash boys, and then we've got whales, we've got funds. One of the things that we added recently to this dashboard was a subsegment filter at the very top. So you can click that and drill down on one of these specific subsegments. And then, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is at docs.nansen.ai, we have a breakdown of all of our different labels and a little description for each of them.
Yeah, this one. So if you go to docs.nansen.ai, you can go to wallet labels or emojis. What do they mean? And it has information about, basically many of the labels that we use, including some of the emojis.
Could you go back one tab on this docs.nansen.ai?
Yeah.
I didn't know that we had the links to the Telegram channels in here. But
me neither.
Well, there you go, you guys. We're discovering it live here. But for smart. Oh, this is just instructions on the smart alerts.
Yeah, looks like it. So if you want to set up smart alerts for Telegram, I guess this is one place where you can find it. You also have a link to this page from the smart alerts page inside of Nansen.
Right.
I'd actually never used this sub-segment filter. It's pretty cool. You can, for example, only look at funds. It's quite nice.
Yeah. It's so part of the reason for the sub-segment filter is because a lot of people were noticing that there was a ton of Alameda transactions or kind of these on-chain market maker transactions, and they wanted to just look at smart LPs, for example, and see what smart LPs were aping into in terms of farms or different projects.
Yeah.
Did we cover all of hash masks? Was there anything else?
I think so. I mean, there's more to look at, right? Like you could look at the what is called NCT token.
Correct.
Right? So if people want to better understand, because just to give you a bit of context, if you haven't been following hash masks, when you purchase the hash mask in the NFT sale, you also received some amount of NCT tokens or name change tokens. And these could be used to basically pay for a name change on your hash mask.
Not sure if we just lost Alex there or if I'm frozen.
When you name a token, you burn the tokens. When you name a hash mask, you burn the tokens. So that created some kind of scarcity and a bit of FOMO, which drove the price up quite a bit. Now we're having some problems. Of course, that's great to get on air.
I think your internet just cut out briefly.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me load it again then. Probably was my internet and not the actual nonsense site. Let's see. Here we go. Cool. Yeah. So NCT, you can see, your standard token god mode stats on this, like who's actually trading them. You can recognize some of the names right away from the hash mask claimers. So I think we saw this guy here, the top one, or the second highest contributor of ETH into that contract. They of course received a lot of NCT tokens, and so here you can see them. Looks like they were sending them to the Uniswap pool, and so you could check, and indeed they dumped them for Ether. It looks like 19 hours ago. Okay, maybe that's part of the reason why the price has gone down.
19 hours ago, I think it spiked up to like 50 or 60 cents for one NCT. And I think now it's at like 20 cents maybe.
Let's have a look.
And so if you bought a hash mask from which you received 3,600 NCT roughly, then you basically got a full rebate just by selling your NCT.
I think this might have been a dump, don't you think? Maybe we can match up the time.
Maybe.
But it seems like if you're basically selling that amount of tokens, dumping them straight into, so like at 11 p.m., right? Sorry. At 11 p.m. that was UTC, so it was around here. This is when they sold. Interesting. Yeah, you can also see there still are some holders, like in particular that wallet itself, holds 400,000 tokens still, more than 1%. And Virtual Bacon is the biggest holder.
I guess the other thing to note, if you scroll down to unique holders of NCT token, around 3,000. Despite there having been sold 16,000 hash masks roughly. So, I mean, it was pretty obvious from seeing people like wubbalubadubdub.eth and Virtual Bacon buying, like basically having huge incoming ETH into the hash mask contracts, that they were buying a lot of them. But here is just like a second sort of validation that despite 16,000 hash masks having been sold, there were not 16,000 purchasers.
Mm-hmm. This one is kind of interesting too. 450,000. It's like the third biggest one. Doesn't have a label, so we could look that up on Profiler real quick to see if there's anything interesting we can find on this address. Doesn't have any labels. Maybe it's a pretty new address. I guess we'll find out. 450,000. And then it gets those from a medium DEX trader. Okay, interesting. So maybe it was just a movement to a new wallet. Maybe they wanted to have a lower profile somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of, you can get an overview of like what's happening here. And I do find it kind of interesting that some of these big names are still holding their NCT tokens.
It's the future of France.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think from here, so given that we were both kind of surprised to see the smart alerts instructions in docs.nansen.ai, I think we should probably just transition into a quick overview of smart alerts, because that's a relatively new feature that we rolled out in the last couple weeks. Maybe I'll start screen sharing here.
Yeah, let me turn off mine.
Give just kind of a broad overview of smart alerts.
Smart money equals nonsense subs soon. I think, to be honest, a lot of the smart money already has nonsense subs. But yeah, hopefully. It's a good way to fund your nonsense subs.
So maybe we can just figure out an example here. Actually, yeah, so here's what I'll do. So we'll on my side here, I'll pull up the NCT again, and when it loads, it's slow on my end as well here.
You have to do capital NCT. Yeah, I wonder. That's odd.
So I'll pull this up, and we'll find the wallet address for maybe wubbalubadubdub.eth, just because it's a fun one. And we'll give just a quick demo of how you would set up smart alerts for this person so that you can track when they are dumping their NCT, if ever. So we'll let this load up down here, and then simultaneously, and let me know if it's lagging on the video here. I can telegraph my moves a bit more. Is it loading okay?
Yeah, so far it's good.
Good, okay. So we're back here at Smart Alerts while we wait for that other dashboard to load. You come here, you click Add Trigger, and let's call this NCT Dumper, or maybe
Whale, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, NCT Whales. NCT Whales. So the way Smart Alerts are set up is that anything entered in the same kind of box is an OR, a logical OR. So I'll show you what that means in a second while this continues to load. Here we can just pull up the address from here and then the address from here as well. We want this address right here. So this is wubbalubadubdub, which I'm just having a great time saying. And this one is virtual bacon. So what we've just done here is we've said this address or this address. Okay, so these are the two addresses we care about. And so then we can keep coming down here and we say, and only transactions that are, let's say, minimum of $10,000, or let's call it $50,000. That would be kind of a notable dump. Maybe a way of getting like a threshold for something like this would be you can come to CoinGecko and you look at NCT, and you would come down here into this Uniswap and check the liquidity. So if you dump more than $5,000, you're going to have pretty significant slippage. So that would be considered a fairly significant trade. So actually, maybe let's just set this threshold to $5,000, because if they are willing to take that risk, they're going to get significant slippage. So I want to know about that. So we're looking at these, either this wallet or this wallet, and the minimum transaction size needs to be $5,000, and the token should be NCT. That's the token we care about. And then output to Telegram. Here we won't go through all the steps, but you would just follow the steps that we showed in, or that were available in docs.nansen.ai. Click enable.
Yeah, you can also find them down there to the right. There are links to how to do it.
Correct. And then click save, and then you're off to the races. So now, anytime one of these wallets dumps or moves any sort of NCT over $5,000, you'll get a notification.
Yep. And when you click save, you should get a notification in your Telegram, if you're using Telegram, that says it's activated. So you can feel comfort by the fact that it's actually it's turned on. You should get that message when you set it up correctly.
Right. So other ways you could use this would be, for example, if you let's say you're monitoring different whale wallets that have sushi. So you could put in multiple addresses here, or even just one address. And then if you think that they'll be swapping between different platforms where you can stake sushi, you could do something like sushi here. So sushi, and put in sushi. Or you also care when they're making moves with X sushi, if they had staked it in the sushi bar, or if they staked it in Cream. So you could get notifications for all three of these, and it kind of covers the universe of sushi. Another example would be like if you wanted to do like a YFI, for example, like and YFI. or sorry, that was Cream YFI. But like you can kind of cover the whole universe of YFI if you think they'll be kind of hopping around between different staking or lending platforms. Any questions there, or any comments in the chat?
Doesn't look like it. Quan says that this feature is ridiculous, and I agree. It's a pretty cool feature. It is actually, it's. I mean, I think all of us in the Nansen team use this feature because it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've personally discovered quite a few things through smart alerts. So the combo of like this and then going into Nansen to sort of get a better understanding, a deeper understanding of what's actually happening. You know, it's like the smart alert sort of triggers you, like, hey, you should go in and see what's happening. And then you can sort of get a little bit more information and gather some intelligence on what is actually going on. And then you can make a decision afterwards if you want to, you know, ape in or invest or divest or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If I recall correctly, in the chat before I tabbed over, there were people asking about discovering new yield farming opportunities. That was one question. The second question was, do we have data on yield farming opportunities? And so I think maybe we can actually do a little discovery of, or kind of an example of how you can discover new yield farms. So I'll show a couple options here. And the reason why I kind of know this flow is because this happened to me just a few days ago, and I discovered a new yield farm. So let's dive in here. I'm going to pull up Token God mode, and I was looking at Badger. And simultaneously, I'm actually going to also pull up here the hot contracts dashboard. And just for people in the chat, this is currently in alpha testing with our VIPs, but we'll be rolling this out in the next couple weeks. But I'll come back to this in a second because you'll also be able to see the yield farm in here that I discovered. So coming down here, this is Badger. Let's get this loaded up. And so whenever I come to Token God mode, and you know we've demonstrated this before on these office hours, but usually the first thing I'll check is I'll scroll down to token balance changes to notice any notable inflows or outflows of different wallets. So bear with us. I'll just give this a second to load.
Yeah, by the way, we are actually redoing the whole web app so that it will be a lot faster and the user experience will just generally be improved. And we hope to roll that out at some point in March. So it's going to be a better user experience pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. So I came down here, and actually there's two notable things here. One is ArmorFi, which I think someone actually just asked about in the chat earlier. But then the other one is GME Badger. And so I saw GME Badger, and I was wondering what that was, because at the time it looked like people were just aping into it. This is only 3 days old. And so I pulled it up on Etherscan real quick just to see what was going on, and saw that there's an official, this is for Badger. We want to find the contract for this, actually. Hold on.
Yeah, you can you can grab, I mean, you could find it further down as well, I guess, in
Right.
top balances.
Right here. So actually, so where we first came up, I just went back here. Where we first came up, this was Badger being held by this address. So we can actually just click through right here, and we see GameStop Badger staking pool. So you can pull this up and just kind of take a quick peek. You know, looks like crap, but who knows? So you can like continue to do your own research here. You can click on Twitter. So I clicked on Twitter, and I saw that there was a vfat.tools website built for it, which is sometimes a decent validation. And so for me, it was good enough to just keep digging in. So I started here, and I saw that there were balance inflows into it. So I scrolled down here afterwards. I made note of that balance size, which is right now it's around 8,000. Badger. So I scroll down here, 8,600. And I was curious who was staking in here. So I came over to depositors.
Yeah, maybe this part we can explain just real quick, like what that is or how you find it for those who haven't seen it before.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically Daniel was just, grabbing that row in the top balances and then all the way to the right, which depending on how big your screen is, you might not see it. So you have to scroll to the right inside that table. And then there's a depositors link, which will show you who has actually been depositing into this contract. And that's what we're seeing now.
Right. So I pulled this up and just kind of poked through some of these addresses. None of them, or at least, so this is kind of a snapshot of who's depositing right now, and we're 3 days out. So, it's been, I would say that this farm is a little stale in a sense. A lot of these, flash in the pan farms are
It's only like
good
60 people, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes.
Yeah. Don't see a lot of smart money either.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there wasn't too many people here. Another thing you can do here once you kind of check. Actually, when I saw it initially, there were more people. But the other thing you can do here is just come up and check GME now, and do some more due diligence through here. And so on GME, they have a bunch of different pools, but they've got this ETH GME pool 2, which is kind of the one where you're getting heavily incentivized, so 4,000% APY, but you're taking the impermanence loss risk. So here, let's go back. We've got GME here. We can scroll down, and if you're curious who is willing to be taking this impermanent loss risk, you can come down here and you see GME wrapped ETH, the Uniswap pool, and using the same kind of flow as before, you come over here to depositors. So you scroll to the right on the top balances table, and we'll give this a second to load. And so we're looking again at GME deposited in this liquidity pool on Uniswap. And this also works for SushiSwap and anywhere else where you've got pool 2s or liquidity pools. Here we actually do see some smart money. So there is decent participation by smart money. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so eight smart money wallets in the first couple pages. I think, so this is GME. I think it's trading around $2 right now. So this is around $8,000 in GME, and since for a liquidity pool you need to provide both assets, so this is around a $16,000 position, which frankly isn't huge for some of these liquidity pools, and these are some of the top ones. So no one's really staking in size here. So despite the fact that we do see some smart money wallets, if you scroll through here, you should both take note that it is a smart money wallet, but this person is staking $3,000. So this isn't when you're kind of evaluating an opportunity like this, just keep in mind what size people are staking in at. This wouldn't be a bet the farm kind of opportunity. It would be more okay, got some dust in my wallet, I can just toss it into this farm. But again, even then, you're probably going to get hit with pretty large transaction fees. So at this point, an opportunity like this probably wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's one option. Option 2 is these people are kind of trapped in here because of the IL, and they're basically they put in GME and ETH, and they're just hoping that GME goes back in price so they can recover some of their ETH, and they're not just withdrawing all GME and no ETH. So, yeah, any questions on that, or any questions in the chat?
Well, we have some other questions in the chat in general, so maybe I can just address those real quick. So Jose is asking about the Scout program, which I think is also relevant for Kaspar's question above about student discounts. So first of all, we don't have student discounts. We do have a Nansen Scout program where you basically help us with wallet labels, and in return you get free Nansen subscription and basically stable coins for some of your contributions of wallets. So you could apply to that. I don't have a link in front of me right now, but if you go to Twitter and just search for Nansen Scouts, I think you should probably find it there. And it should have a link on how you can apply. We should have some kind of convenience link to that. But yeah, so what's the status on the Scout program? Because at least 50 people applied to become Nansen Scouts. So we started getting back to people now. There was a bit of a delay internally because we needed to shuffle some things around to just address or to get back to people. So we started, I think today, reaching out to Scouts, and yeah, hopefully you'll hear from us soon. But feel free to ping me in the Discord if you have any more questions about that. And then Alex had a question about smart alerts for buying new stuff, which I think was answered by Juan. That's hot contracts, and I would agree. That's pretty much covered. And yeah, so do you have records of the previous office hours sessions available? Yes, we do. If you go on YouTube and you search for Nansen, you should be able to find our YouTube channel. Oh, look at
Or
Juan. He found the nice. Thanks, Juan.
or type in nansen.ai/YouTube, and there's a
Oh
quick
yeah.
link to our YouTube
Okay.
channel.
So nansen.ai/YouTube. You can also do this, and that's gonna redirect you to our YouTube page. Yeah. So that has recordings of all the previous office hours. It's a lot of material. I think what is this, number 10?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you already have 9 hours of content there. Good you could binge on the Nansen office hours videos. We also do have a lot of videos on like how to use Nansen, like the different features and stuff. So it should be pretty useful if you want to become a Nansen expert. It's not the most user-friendly product yet. The good part about that is that you can actually, if you invest a bit of time, you can actually use it very effectively, perhaps more effectively than other users, which gives you a trading advantage, right? So you know, that's the optimistic take on it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we should look at? Do you guys have any addresses, for example? I think someone was asking me about, you know, can you have a look at this address? Like what is it all about? Is it an exchange or something like that? R and XM. So R, is that armor, I guess?
Yeah. That's the one we saw on. We just saw it both on the Badger dashboard. I guess I didn't even finish going back to hot contracts, even though I had loaded it up.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to do that or?
No, that's all right. But the next phase of where you would see that that GME pool was on hot contracts. You could see that GME, the various GME pools were on hot contracts.
Cool. So Juan found armor yesterday and aped in. Good God. Yeah, hopefully that went well with you. Maybe it was you who mentioned in in the chat 116% today. That's great. I think someone mentioned, maybe it was you, that that basically paid for their Nansen yearly subscription, which is great. Smart Money dashboard today. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's kind of the idea, right? So Nansen in the beginning was very optimized for due diligence. So like if you already know which token you want to look at, you can sort of understand where those tokens are, what the liquidity is, who's accumulating them, etc. But with smart money, hot contracts, and so on, we have way more discovery features, which is pretty cool because there's a lot of stuff happening in DeFi and crypto, and it's very hard to keep track over all the opportunities. And the nice thing about on-chain data is, you can see what people are doing, not just what they're saying. So that's kind of the thought there. So okay, R and XM. What do you think? Is that something we can look at? I don't know if we even have R and XM as a token in Token God mode.
We can take a look, or we can also just show it in custom Token God mode custom.
Yeah, I mean, let's try it.
Yeah.
I think someone has
one way to find it would be to use to look up WNXM on Token God mode and then see if it's one of the one of the top balances is
Yeah.
for ArmorFi.
Yeah, okay, let's try that. Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit more improvisation here. So WNXM, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm doing this little shortcut, which I also have a YouTube video on how you can set it up. But when I look up something in token god mode, I just do TGM for token god mode, and then I write WNXM, for example, as the token, and that just basically generates this URL, which will look it up for me. So what Daniel was saying was that if we look up WNXM, maybe we'll see this, what was it called? ARNXM?
ARNXM, yeah.
Cool. Maybe we'll see that because it should hold a lot of those tokens, right? So if we sort on change, balance changes, indeed it is the biggest inflow of WNXM, right? It's this one here. So I just scrolled down to balance changes and I sorted the change because this shows the inflow of WNXM tokens into other contracts. It seems like there's one for Cream. CR is probably Cream. That could be maybe a little bit better labeled. And then the top one is ArmorFi. So, I mean, it's a lot of stuff we could look at here. First of all, it's interesting to look at who's depositing into it. So you can see the top transactions. There's a smart LP dunking 30,000 WNXM into that that smart contract. It's also an elite DEX trader doing the same. And if you wanted to get an overview, you can do the same thing as Daniel was showing earlier. You know, you go down to the top balances. We see that ArmorFi is the third largest holder of WNXM. And they first started receiving them 12 days ago. But so we can look at who's depositing WNXM into ArmorFi. And this is the exact same thing as what we did earlier. So this kind of shows the versatility of some of these tools. Like you can really look at them for any token and you can use them for lots of different use cases. So I guess, I mean, maybe people in the chat know more about this than us. Like I have not studied this closely, but I guess this yields something, right? It's some kind of yield farm or something like that. There's a reason why people are, you know, aping in with their WNXM. And just on the first page, you see some smart money, right? You see the smart LP, second biggest. You see DeFi maximalist.eth. This is an address you might want to put alerts on because they are, you know, they've done some good investments in the past. Smart LP also down here. So why are they in there, right? Like, what do they know that I don't know because I don't know much about this project? There's also DeFi whale.eth here. Oh, and we have 0xB1, which is the infamous Twitter on-chain influencer.
And there's also that triple skull.eth who we
This
saw on the was one of the top
Hashmask
apes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a small world. You know, you see many of the same faces, at least among the larger players participating. So this is like, if I saw this and I didn't know anything about this project, I would definitely want to learn more about it. And I probably will after we finish the stream. Although it might be too late, who knows. So that's like one way you could approach this. Maybe another way to approach it is what you were talking about earlier. So the assumption here is, this is a token in itself, right? Or actually not this one, sorry, but they're maybe farming these other tokens, the Armor NXM. So maybe if we grab this and we can use the
I think that's the same
token god mode for custom tokens down here. And so now I just grab this token from Etherscan and let's see what happens if we do that. And I just paste in the address here. It's the same thing as token god mode, except you can plug in any token address. So the normal token god mode just has like this convenience layer of giving you the symbol, so you don't have to look up the address. But here you can plug in any address and it's going to generate the same token god mode interface that you know. And so it's going to show tokens on exchanges. You see a lot of it in Balancer, in Uniswap, and also in SushiSwap. And if we scroll down, you see some smart LPs transacting with it, and you see also some smart LPs, some smart money holding it. Like DeFi Maximalist is a top 20 holder here as well. So I guess they're just farming this token, right? That's how they're doing it. WNXM into this one that we were looking at. Into this vault, and then they're getting these Armor NXM tokens.
Here's a question for you. Would you be able to see who is the top AR NXM farmer by going back to the WNXM top balances, so that pool that we were just looking at, and clicking on top recipients and swapping out some of the token addresses there?
Maybe. I have to admit though, like because different farms work differently, so it's a little bit dangerous to make assumptions on how exactly it works. Like in the real world, if I discovered this, I saw there's something going on here, I'd probably read up on, like, go to the website, understand a bit how it actually works. So, if you're claiming tokens, or however way you're getting these tokens as rewards for your farming efforts, I would try to understand that before. But maybe we can take it as an exercise though. Like if you have some ideas, so you wanted to switch out like this, or do you want to do top recipients maybe, or what did you have in mind?
Top recipients, and then swap out the token address for ARNXM to see who's receiving ARNXM.
Right. The question is though, like, where should they be receiving it from? The same one, you think? This one?
I'm guessing, yeah. I'm guessing.
Okay, let's try it. I'm just gonna do a little different shortcut here, because I'm gonna use the custom one to get the recipients, because that just generates the link, but of course it's gonna be for a different address. And then I'm gonna grab the deposit address, right? And then plug that into the sender address. That's kind of what you meant, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. And this might not work because we haven't really looked up how this stuff works, but it might give us an idea. It could also be that it's minting the tokens from like the 0 address. So in fact, this we can find out probably. We can look at DeFi Maximalist and see how did they get their tokens.
So you clicked on wallet profile.
Actually, wait, that doesn't.
Token.
Yeah, sorry. Wait, just one sec. Referral rewards proxy. Yeah, I don't think that worked actually. So, what you could do is, it's a little bit weird, but you could look at the depositors into DeFi Maximalist's address, and then figure out where they got their tokens from, because presumably they got them from wherever they get minted. So let's see if that's actually the case.
And you were looking at Token God Mode Custom for ARNXM there, right?
Yeah.
And then check.
And I think I was right here. You see, they got their tokens from the 0 address. Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't plug in the contract address we were looking at. You have to plug in the 0 address. And so here, I'm going to go back and I'm going to now plug in the 0 address. And now we should get the top recipients, basically. The top farmers. Let's see. Hopefully that's right. Typically, when new tokens are minted, they come from this 0 address. So that can be a good way. Yeah, here we go. There we have them. DeFi Maximalist, ePay, Smart LP. So this kind of mirrors quite well this stuff here, right? This is the WNXM they have in this contract, right? That's like how much they have right now. And this is how many tokens they received in rewards, presumably. Like, we should have done like the research on this, and that's what I would recommend everyone to do. But just playing around with the data, that's like what it looks like.
So in this column where you see first in, if we were to sort by first in, would that show us who is the very first person to participate?
Yeah, should do. So blockt.eth.
Okay.
Let's see. blockd.eth. You know, it could also be, by the way, it could be that these are LP tokens, right? It could be that they're not actually farmed. They're just LP tokens that you receive when you enter this pool. And so
Right.
this is why I'm like a little bit, I'm not sure I want to talk too much about it, because it could be that, you know, this is very easily to answer. You just try to read up on the project, roughly what it does and how it works.
Right. I guess I was just curious about this one because, you know, as you're searching for interesting wallets to follow, it's always cool to see
Definitely.
who is receiving, first of all, like, so who are the top recipients, because you kind of want to see who went in early and big. Those were the
Yep.
people who took a big risk, and or at least a, you know, calculated risk on some of these on some of these good projects, or, you know, do your
Yeah.
own research. But
I'd love to look at Block D. Like, what's up with Block D? You know, what else are they doing? Because they were the first one in, right? And I think many people use this strategy. They're, as you were saying, they just try to find the people who are early.
yeah, although based on the time there, since there's such a big time gap between Block D and the next person, it looks like,
Maybe it's like the
well,
developer or something.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a surprising period of a gap of time between the two.
Yeah, it could be a developer just kind of testing it out or something. Um, yeah, who knows? But you could play around and try to understand what else they're doing. Investment.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All
Cool.
right, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Did you have any parting words, Alex?
So, if any of this was interesting, obviously you should go to our YouTube channel, which we posted above, nansen.ai/YouTube. And you can also join our Discord if you're not there already. And in general, if you haven't used Nansen, it's only $9 to try it out for 7 days. And you can do a lot of cool stuff in 7 days with it. So I would recommend everyone to try it out.
Perfect. As always, feel free to message us on Twitter or on Discord. We're always happy to answer any questions and meet the users and have you guys join the Nansen community of people who are interested in on-chain analytics and interested in the future of France here. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.
Cheers.